Plenty to talk about in the low-term timeframes today, so let's begin. Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a lovely and very early Tuesday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. Once again, pitch black AF, and we have plenty to talk about on the short-term timeframes and the medium-term timeframes, even though some of the higher-term timeframes, as Bitcoin does have a little bit of a nice short-term slump there. And so I want to follow up on yesterday's short-term timeframe analysis, picking up from where we left off on the Forex video, actually, because that was the most recent one, obviously. And with that said, I'd like to wish you the best and the happiest. So, into the Krown chain application we go, and what do we see? Well, first off, we do see that Bitcoin dominance kind of finding the bottom side of that region, 68%, and also in between there and about the highs of about 72 to 73%, of which I do want to check in on the Bitcoin dominance chart today and see exactly what's going on right there, as could it be that we actually are seeing a legitimate reversal, or is this just short term getting ready for the next move? On top of that, we do see that the fear and greed index also coming down a 1 point from a 94 to 93. Apparently didn't really scare the market all that much, which is rather interesting, and the open interest also coming down significantly from yesterday to today when we last spoke on the morning video, but obviously when we saw the Forex video, it was kind of already where it is right now at 4.7 billion, so coming down quite significantly. Now, there is an importance to this, and the reason why is because when we do see that open interest coming down as price action comes down, and when we look in the actual price action charts themselves, which I'm referencing right now, you can very easily see that volume was coming down as well. Then what does that suggest? Just that was a bit of profit taking as the market sort of evens itself out, and now it's game on once again as we do close the 2-day last night, which was the big, bad, important one, or at least the most important one that was closing the soonest, so to speak. Moving on to the data tab, what do we see over here? We do see that this is very interesting actually. The futures premium over spot price action dissipating quite significantly there, so the market is going to go into a bit of a consolidation here. If I did call things right now, I'd say it's neither bullish nor bearish. It's going to be bullish, a little bit of sideways action, probably within a massive range, which we'll document on the lower term time frame soon enough, because, well, it's not uncommon to see an hourly range of multi-thousands of dollars at this point, which is rather ridiculous. But for the traders out there, myself included, of which I haven't really been making too many short-term trades, just mostly been a hodler actually as of recent times, perhaps the opportunity is going to be presenting itself once again as Bitcoin does cool off a bit. And with that said, looking at the global funding rate, what do we see? We actually did see things maintain above the 0.1% threshold yesterday, and I believe we actually still see some exchanges around that threshold. Binance at 0.09%, FTX at 0.07%. But we did see a pretty nice medium-term top being put in right there, and now it goes back into parity. So with all of that in mind, I don't see any critical things on the funding rate as it is right now. And still, when I actually do look for a major reversal, I want to see several of these exchanges, 3 or more, get above that 0.1% threshold and actually stay there for a few days. Now, we did see that for about 24 hours yesterday and the day prior. But we're not really seeing it today. So I do still think that is something to be concerned with, yes, but I haven't really seen anything actionable as far as price action goes just yet. And of course, at the end of the day, price action does trump all, and we're going to go over that in just a second here. So actually, let's do it right here, right now. Start off with our secondary charts. And what do we see? We do see that the 2-day is once again closing above the topside Toronto band, actually as of last night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Closing above at a price of $32,005.88 on stamp, and our topside Toronto band was about $300 lower than that, so pretty damn good right there. And I do overall favor that amongst everything else. However, just because we do have that signal, I would also be contrasting that with the fact that this is one massive long-legged doji dildos, which if you are a candlestick trader, a dildo trader, if you are any sort of a formation trader, you're looking at that as potential reversal. It is a sign of indecision, perhaps even reversal. And how would you now confirm that as reversal? 2 ways. So the first and most obvious way, and probably the easiest way as well, is just by taking out the low side of that prior 2-day dildo, which was 27,734, and that is again on stamp. It will be different on different exchanges, obviously, but not all that different. And then yes, I would be looking for a greater move to the downside. That's actually really when I do start to look at that 23 to 24,000 level that I really like for a long-term pullback. But the question still remains: is that long-term pullback the thing to be looking for right now, or is this a little bit premature? And I'd say it's still premature until we have a confirmation of reversal here. I still go with the former trend, and because we are still closing above the topside Toronto bands here, well, that's not really been a winning position, as you can see. Counter trading that for the last for the last few months, actually going all the way back to basically September. So I would not necessarily be gung-ho about looking for a reversal just yet. And to be fair, I should talk about this really quickly here. I should talk about this really quickly. Let's go to a weekly for a second. The weekly is clearly an uptrend, right? What would be constituted in order to reverse into a downtrend? Well, we need lower highs and lower lows. Where is Bitcoin's last low? Anyone? Anyone? I'll give you a hint. It's not happening for a very long time. So Bitcoin can maintain the uptrend on our higher term timeframes that define the macro and still come down. In this case, I mean, even $10,000 quite easily. So, I mean, even more than $10,000. So that should be a little bit concerning to those of you out there who are over leveraged and longing every last little fucking dip. At the end of the day, Bitcoin, yes, has a humongous range here, even on the short-term timeframes, which we'll go into in a second. But for perspective on the macro, nothing about this makes me bearish on the macro. However, Bitcoin could again come down an extreme amount. I mean, $5,000 would be nothing, $6,000 would be nothing from here, $7,000 would be nothing, and it would still be a higher low. To be fair, so into the should we go back to the 2-day? Yeah, we'll stay here on the 2-day for a second. Is there anything on our momentum oscillators? We do still see that ADX is actually strong, and the DMI plus is still dominant, obviously, but I'm curious if there's any sort of divergences to be aware of. No, I don't see that, so that's also not as concerning. I will not really be even willing to call a high from the 2-day perspective, which is an uptrend as well, until we actually get some sort of divergence on the DMI here too, or preferably or the RSI as well. But as it stands right now, we do not have divergence, and more importantly, because it did make new highs on that past prior run, that would suggest that if we are going to put in divergence, that would also be accompanied by new closing highs too. So with that in mind, what does this likely equate to? Probably a little bit of down, probably a little bit of sideways and down. However, I'm not necessarily looking for a full-on reversal just yet. I do think that Bitcoin's going to come down, a little bit here and probably fill at the bottom side of the range, but that would also imply that Bitcoin still does try for new highs on this run, which I do still kind of stick with, especially granted the 3-day closure that we got on Sunday and also the weekly as well, which do sit in that sort of a bias, which we have actually not fulfilled just yet. And I'm curious what CMEs look like here as well. Yeah, the 2-day actually just coming back down and testing the top side of the triangle band. That is rather interesting, and I think the 2-day CME chart is a lot more obvious here as well. If Bitcoin does take out the last 2-day CME low, which is 28,440, by the way, pretty nice gap fill right there, I would be looking for a drive all the way down to this next gap right below $24,000. So that would be a more than a $5,000 move. Or sorry, about a $5,000 move, and that would be very easily tradable. And I think that CME is just represented incredibly well right here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to put in a nice little alert right there. Thank you for Mr. Nimbo for teaching me how. Hey, what the fuck? I thought I could get rid of these damn red lines. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's it. Ha, love it. Fucking nice trick there, Mr. Nimbo. But yes, as far as that stands, I think that the CME chart is just a little more obvious here, a little more orderly too. So can do the same thing on the daily as well. I mean, it's basically the same shit. In fact, the daily on CME seems to line up a lot more with what we see on the 2-day for spot price action. Looking at here on a momentum oscillators, we actually are starting to see the MACD back off a little bit. We do see our first sort of loosened histogram right there, and that typically does actually really notify you of the rally waning. Last time that we saw this was, well, back on over here, that did go into a sideways consolidation. So it's not calling the rally over. It's just calling a little bit of sideways consolidation. And still, my conditions for looking for a reversal stand as they are. Nothing's really changed there. I'm curious if there's anything on maybe the weekly that I missed here. No, still more or less the same. And I still like the weekly long term. And what about the lower term timeframes, like a 12-hour or a 4-hour? 12-hour kind of just trudging along, 4-hour just trudging along as well. And I mean, I think the 4 hour is a lot more obvious here. I mean, it's not really anything majorly disparaging about this price action, to be honest with you, at least as it stands. So again, I will not really change around to medium term bearish until Bitcoin takes out that last 2-day low on spot price action, or you could just look at it as the daily or the 2-day for CMEs. I think CME is a little more of an obvious chart here, and then yes, I would be, if that condition is met, I would be looking for a drive down to a little bit lower than $24,000. Now, is there another way to get this potential reversal before looking for a takeout of yesterday's low? Yes, there is. price. In fact, I think that this one would require a little more patience, but if we go down here to a 4-hour, I would be looking at the same sort of pivot that we had for yesterday, right around 29,500 as that same sort of pivot. So that means that if Bitcoin does violate this region, then yes, I would ultimately be looking for a drive down somewhere around the 200 simple right here, actually, which would be in line with that slightly lower than $24,000 target. As it stands right now, though, when we do go through the lower term timeframes, I do first and foremost look at this as a bullish reset and a sideways, mostly healthy-ish consolidation. I understand that healthy does not really come into the lexicon of someone who just witnessed a $5,000 red dildo on on a fucking 4-hour chart, a 16% move, to put that in perspective. But for the people who are new here into cryptocurrency land, have to remember that when we're dealing with big numbers, the ranges are naturally going to be bigger as well. And get the fuck out of my... Yeah, there we go. That's it. Yes, I love... Man, that's the best trick, Nimbo. Thank you for that one, man. Anyways, yes, as it stands right now, I do still like it for a little bit of sideways action, and as long as 29,500 is not violated, I really have no reason to even get medium-term bearish here. Short-term, yes, that can obviously go to and fro, and I think right now is going to be a good time to redo these short-term timeframes, as this was relevant, but I'd actually prefer to change it right now, just because I do see that we have a different range going on right now as well. So, we're going to put that area right there, and we'll keep this area on the bottom side, because I do think that that is more or less relevant. Now, here's the thing. As long as Bitcoin goes sideways within this region, keep in mind, it is still quite literally an uptrend. I mean, we do have higher highs and higher lows, although if Bitcoin does break below 29,500, then yes, we will start to initiate lower lows, and then this would be considered a lower high, and then yes, we do have a downtrend, and then yes, we can look for lower price action, at the very least back down to this level right here for a short-term move. That would be another $1,500 move, by the way. It doesn't look like much, but it is. And then below there, obviously that would initiate the next leg, which I start to look for about a $5,000 drop, and have a nice fucking Tuesday, huh? Anyways, as it stands right now, I do want to put the focus on this, the 4-hour Stokes, which are coming down right around the neutral zone, right in smack dab in the middle of the neutral zone, actually. And let's draw this trend line for this time frame. And god damn it, all my damn trend lines are all over the place, as I need to reset my charts, but let's do it like this. And we'll do it specifically for the 4-hour here. And we do see that this has got the lows from 9th of December, and then also more recently on the 29th of December. So that would be all the way back on over here on this, on this accumulated low. And then more recently, I believe somewhere over here, yeah, on this accumulated low before the next drive up. And, could Bitcoin be setting up for something similar? Perhaps yes. But more importantly, we do know that the 4-hour Stokes will naturally cross back onto the upside if Bitcoin closes this next 4-hour dildo in the next 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 23 seconds above what price point? $31,031.27 to be exact. So is that likely? Well, Bitcoin's quite literally trading about $10 to $20 below that current, now about $5 below that current price point right now. So I do think that it will have a chance on this next closure, obviously. Now, what I want to see is a lower term time frame starting to agree with that. And if they do, then more or less good. But before we do that, we should go further on into the 4-hour in the 4-hour indicators. And this also really sticks out to me as well. The HVP on the 4-hour got incredibly red yesterday. No shit. That's what's going to happen when you have a massive fucking 18% dump, just intraday. It doesn't even change the fucking trend. But what does this tell us? It tells us that as it starts to rise up into, the deep 90s, I mean, we quite literally got like 100 reads, I think, or actually very, very close to 100 reads over here. More importantly, that's going to very likely go into a contraction phase, which in the context of this current price action, if you're going to see volatility contract as Bitcoin is essentially, holding the medium-term range, what does that suggest? Suggest consolidation. And in this case, it suggests at the first, healthy consolidation, again, as long as the criteria that we set out before is met. On top of that, 4-hour RSI, what do we see? We did get that downside move that we spoke about yesterday. I'd actually be looking for it to maybe even try a little bit lower here, to be fair. Still long-term, though, I like it. Actually, I don't know if I'd be looking for it to try lower here. I'd be looking for it to hold sideways within the neutral zone. Actually, again, a bullish reset is just sideways here. As long as it doesn't break below 29,500, that is a bullish. It's kind of the wrong terminology, but I like to visualize it as a bullish reset, I suppose. So yes, that's your 4-hour. 3 hours already crossing back onto the upside. Will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin's closing above 31,250 in the next, actually 16 minutes and 40 seconds. So that one's looking a little bit unlikely, but again, still structure matters over everything else, and 3-hour RSI is kind of what I'm looking for the 4-hour to do. Just hang within the neutral zone here a bit. And same thing on 3-hour historical volatility percentile, already going in to a little bit of contraction, as you naturally will after literally hitting into like the 99 percentile. But, again, that would play into the narrative that a little bit of sideways action here would be good for Bitcoin. Again, with the criteria that it must hold above 29,500 on closures. Moving on to the buy hourly, what do we see? We do see buy hourly stocks are a little bit under pressure here, actually. Will close to the downside with any sort of a closure below 31,257, and that is coming in 16 minutes as well. So this 2 hour and 3 hour are going to be closing simultaneously. And if we do start to see it close below that region, I would probably look for another drive down to 29.5, but a drive down to 29.5 does not imply a breakage of 29.5, which is the most important thing right now. So as long as that holds, I still look for that area to bounce it, essentially. On top of that, going into, and same thing for HBP over here as well, and same thing for buy hourly RSI. This is about what I'm looking for in the 3 and 4 hour to happen, and so far, so good. Looking at the hourly, what do we see as well? Coming down a little bit, and will remain to the downside as long as we're below 32,691. Looking a little bit likely right now, although we are only about 150 bucks away from that, and that's coming in, again, 15 minutes. So hourly, 2 hour, 3 hour, all closing together. 4 hour to come a little bit later after that. And you can see very easily here on the hourly. And funnily enough, just as an aside, the hourly ranges have been very, very good. We do see that the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average are where they're right around that 29.5 region. And I would honestly be looking for a drive down there, regardless of the fact. The question is, does Bitcoin actually break that region? So very short term, am I downside angled? Yeah, I do think that we're going to get a wick down here. Do we get a closure down here and actually break that level? That remains to be seen. That's not what I don't like try to fucking bring out the crystal ball. I don't think that you can do that. You can come up with, reasons why it might be more likely, depending upon the other oscillators and whatnot, to gear the statistics in that favor. But for right now, I'd give it a chance first and foremost. We see the same thing on everything else. In fact, hidden bearish divergence also playing out on hourly RSI, but that was initiated about 3 dildos ago, so I'd say that is probably already played out, seeing as we already had about a $2,000 move or a $1,500 move. Not bad, not bad indeed. So I will now go to the medium-term time frame to see what we have over here. Actually, before we do that, I'm curious just really, really quickly if we have anything different on CMEs. Hourly, no. Buy hourly, no. But both of them are downside angled here for a short-term move. Triple hourly, very similar, yes. And 4 hour, very similar, yes as well. Actually, I kind of like the 4 hour on this one as well. Okay, so very interesting. But the extremely short-term time frames, yes, do want to grind back down. But that, again, do not confuse test back down with a breakage back down. I want to see that proven, not try to guess beforehand. 'Cause that's not trading. That's not technical analysis. That's just YouTube bullshit so that people can make like a cool thumbnail. And by the way, if you are new to this channel, I should warn you, on my YouTube videos, my thumbnails and my titles, I will sometimes egregiously and in some ways in a trolling way poke fun at some of the trends that I see with a lot of YouTubers, making their own YouTube titles and everything. Not because I'm mean-spirited, but maybe a little because I'm mean-spirited, but I just think it's fucking funny. And at the end of the day, I do want you to know that a lot of 9 out of 10 times the title of my videos have absolutely zero to do with the content. So fair enough. just playing along with the market sentiments. Anyways, going on with the 12 hour right here into the medium-term timeframes we go. What do we see? We do see 12-hour stocks are nice and significantly angled to the downside, breaking below the critical zone, which I do not like, and that will remain to the downside as long as it's below 33,000 bucks. So that is a little bit problematic for the short-term timeframes. Yes, I do still think that Bitcoin's going to test back down here, 29.5, maybe even 29 even actually, but that does not imply a break just yet. Could happen, but it does not imply it just yet. 12-hour RSI certainly wants to come down as well here, so I would be looking for a little bit of, again, I would be looking for short-term down and test those downsides of the ranges. Moving on to, well, do we have anything on HVP? Yes, it is really fucking red. Jesus Christ, man. So we're likely to go into contraction phase. So overall, what does that come with? Probably some sideways price action on a medium-term time frame. But what's the medium-term time frame range? You're not going to like it. Medium-term time frame range is like 33,000 all the way down to 26,200. So there you go. There you go. enjoy your fucking enjoy your multi-$1,000 ranges. Oh god, that is death. Looking at the daily, what do we see? Again, downside angled in the short term for sure. We do see daily stocks coming down. 34,400 is the magical number. That is very, very likely to continue onwards today. But that does not, again, imply an actual breakdown. And where do we see the 10 simple? 29,500. So I do like that area for a little bit of a short-term bounce. The question is, do we actually break that area over time? Daily is a little bit concerning here, though. We don't have bearish divergence on the daily, but we do have the daily RSI breaking below the exponential here. Now, typically speaking, this will pop back up short-term, but that is, it's not a reversal signal. It is, it certainly is a downwards and sideways signal, however, though. So I would be a little bit cognizant of that as well. Moving on to the 2-day, do we see anything of particular interest right here? Same sort of signature. This one obviously fresh as well, as we just got a closure last night. And yeah, short term it would be downside angled. Here we have our first issue. This is our first major issue within this rally thus far. Now, I will preface this conversation by saying it is not a humongous issue, and more importantly, it is it's actually it might be a little bit too far away for me to care about this, but I do think I would put the spotlight on this, because if it does create another drive, then that will be a humongous issue, and we do have our first drive of bearish divergence here present on the 2-day time frame. But that is only going to be confirmed if we confirm this as a local high. Is this confirmed as a local high just yet on the 2-day specifically? No, it's not. How do we confirm it as a local high on the 2-day specifically? Once again, taking out the low of it would certainly do it, and closing below the low of it would very much do it. And then we could talk about big bad moves down to $20,000 base, maybe a little bit lower than there. At that point, I probably even favor $18,000. But for now, if I'm looking for that first leg, it'd be like 24 to 23,500. So that is a pretty major move from that price point, because again, that's $5,000 to $6,000. I mean, kind of a big deal, actually. Anyways, moving on to the 3-day. We're not closing this one today, but I believe it is tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We do see 3 days, so it's going to very, very likely cross the downside as long as below 34,000 bucks. 3-day RSI. Again, no divergences here. So I'm still very hesitant to be calling it a major high just yet, but we could very easily explore the downside here. So again, the criteria is very well set. I do want to go back down to lower term timeframes and siphon off these ranges a bit more. So we do have this horizontal right here, right in line with the 4-hour 55 exponential average, which I do think that Bitcoin's about to test, probably maybe even during this video. And that would be about 29.5, right around there. Would be looking for a short-term bounce off that level as well. By the same token, we can make a short-term time frame range on this, and that would be this blue box territory to the upside right here at 32,000 even. 32,000 even is relevant for both the 4-hour and 2-hour. Would you say on the 2? Yeah, I would say on the 2-hour, yes. Books accumulated within that region as well, so I do like that. And that means that if Bitcoin does touch close, especially 4-hour deltas above this level, I would look for another move back up, not necessarily to the high side of the range, but another, let's say, this is about a $1,500 move right here. That is so fucking crazy. This is what we are so spoiled. We're so fucking spoiled. This is ridiculous. I feel like a spoiled brat. But I'd be looking for a move back up here towards about 33.5 region short term, and then you can use that to cut the short term once again for another $1,000 move to the top side of the range. And above this region, I basically get bullish again, to be fair. Sorry, I'm technically still bullish on all high time frames, because we don't really have a reversal just yet. But more importantly, on this area right here, I start to look for a trending move to the upside, to new all-time highs. And we can talk about targets if and when that does happen, which I think are going to be best based off of our prior areas over here, of which can we put on our drawing tools. Above that area, I would start to target 38,000 to 40,000 actually. 4-spot extension is going to be a short-term relevancy, but for the 4-spot 236 is the big one, so that's what I'll be keeping my eyes on. Anyways, back onto our short-term timeframes over here. Okay, did we get the short-term timeframe ranges? Pretty much, yes. Again, 29.5 to the downside. Extremely short-term would be 32 to the upside, and that is relevant for a move, another $1,500 move towards 33.5. And then above there, I'm basically looking for another trending move to the upside. However, probably do want to be aware for a short-term stoppy stop at 34.5 here as well. Anyways, okay, what else do we have? We are 23 minutes into this bitch, and let's go check out what Caretaker is saying about this one. Okay, very nice. Perfect, fucking perfect, man. I love this hourly. This hourly is... It's not my favorite time frame to trade on this one, but it's my favorite time frame to confirm my short-term ideas for my other tools. I actually trade like the very low-term time frames on this one. I do use it, but this would be showing 29.5 to the downside versus 33.7, 33.5 to the upside. It looks like, so I do like that. But again, short-term downside is going to be implied here. And we're getting that right now, so quite sweet. And unfortunately, I couldn't get this video out earlier. Otherwise I might have been actionable. Anyways, let's see. What else do we have? We got... let's check out Bitcoin dominance really quick. I'm very curious to see what we're looking like here, seeing as... would it be wise to flip around? how are things acting when Bitcoin comes down a little bit more aggressively? No, it is popping back up using the 200 exponential moving average to kind of base off of. I wouldn't mind another move. It's not okay. That sounds fucking stupid. Sorry. Apologies for that. That was a very dumb way to postulate that thought. I do still think that it's possible to come down a little bit lower into the 66% region. However, I do still stick with my long-term bullishness on this. Closing above the 200 exponential average on the weekly is obviously a big deal, but more importantly, the monthly trend tells all, and the monthly trend is very much to the upside. And did we already get down there? 67.66. I was saying 66.5 about. It's pretty fucking close, really. I'm not certain. Let's go look at some shitcoin charts, actually. This would be a good time. Let's see if there's anything new going on. Buteral popping up very aggressively right there, but is that anything relevant? Yeah, no, altcoins probably do have a little bit of a rally here. So yes, I do think that we have finally entered into a nice sideways range for Bitcoin. That's going to actually allow altcoins to rally here. So we're finally going to see that interplay. The question is, do altcoins break their current downtrend and start to actually rally against the Satoshi pairing with Bitcoin rallying versus US dollar? That's what I'm really interested to see. And I'd say that's certainly not confirmed just yet. But short term and medium term, yes, rallies will be initiated. But here's a key critical thing. As long as, and I think Ethereum Bitcoin is actually the easiest one to read on this one. It just historically speaking seems to get it very, very well. As long as we're below this prior high right here, which is 3,666,000 Satoshis, then I still remain with long-term bearishness and short-term and medium-term bullishness with most altcoin Satoshi pairings, probably not all of them, but most of them. And with that said, above that region, I actually would start to get bullish on all of them, and we will see some sort of market shifting dynamics going on right here, and that would probably imply something bad for Bitcoin, to be fair. But if Bitcoin has not topped off what I'd essentially expect on the macro, that is, then what I essentially expect is altcoins to rally a little bit here in the short term, medium term, and then long term continue their downtrends while Bitcoin continues its uptrends, and then altcoins will likely follow versus US dollar. Let's go check out Mr. Buteral actually versus USD here too. Wait, no, that's euro dollar. Motherfucker, fuck you, euro dollar. Go down, you shit. Let's see. So Mr. Buteral, we did say that it was likely to gun for based off of the last week's closure towards that 1250-ish region. We got pretty damn close. We got up to about 1200, so close enough is close enough in this case. And what happens now? Is this the top? Is that it? Is that the end? Probably unlikely. I do think that this one's going to fall versus Bitcoin US dollar. And if you remember, when Bitcoin was consolidating below the $20,000 high, it did take a few weeks, if we can go reference it right now. But I'd essentially be looking for something similar to what you saw right on over here when Bitcoin was right below its prior all-time high. A little bit of sideways and down, which, to be fair, remember, and this is going to be even more crazy on Mr. Buteral because it is an altcoin after all, but this was almost a 20% range on a weekly for about 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks before the next trending move to the upside. I'd probably be looking for something similar on Mr. Buteral here to happen, and I'd be looking for Buteral to likely follow Bitcoin here too. I do think that it will probably make new all-time highs, coming out of that base, but not before a little bit of sideways and in downside action, of which we've seen a little bit thus far, but I want to see it for like a few weeks to a month at the very least. And let's see, where's my chart back on over here? So it's like I'm doing like the worst YouTube fucking clickbait title. I'll make a very clickbait title for this video, but it's like, what's the actual clickbait? Sideways in a range, boring AF, while everyone talks about Bitcoin to 1 million. It's like people are racing to get like the most crazy calls now. Like before it was like Bitcoin to 100,000, and then people like started one up each other on YouTube, and then it's like Bitcoin to 250,000, 250,000, nothing left, baby. I'm Michael Saylor, bitch. And then people were like, no, that's way too low, man. 500,000, I'm fucking Z's, bro. And then people started saying a million, and now people are saying more than a million. Now look, could Bitcoin hit those levels? Who the fuck knows, man? I think it's very, 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 very fucking immature to be calling that sort of a thing when Bitcoin is quite literally trading at $30,000. That's you're calling it 30x, man, and like people are going to actually like they're gonna plan out their life as if that's true. You have to be. If I'm like speaking to YouTube creators here. It's like doesn't even matter because no one's gonna fucking watch this. But like people might make decisions off that. You have to realize that that's. And you don't know that, and you can't know that. There's no way to. I can tell you this as a trader who's been doing this for a long time now. You can have some really fucking good signals. You can have the best of the best fucking signals, but there's still going to be some statistical probability at the end of the day. Whether it's really, it could be really, really small, to be fair, but that you might be wrong based off that. And what happens if you're wrong? Well, anything. I mean, we do live in. I mean, life is, or just in general, life is random in some ways, and random things do happen. And so, while you could be very certain of something, there's always going to be some small probability, at the very least, some small probability that you're going to be wrong. And it's just, you have to represent that, and that's what trading is all about: is planning for what happens if you're right, planning for what happens if you're wrong, and knowing why those levels are relevant to begin with. That's the way that I look at things. So that's also going to create some more or less unsexy titles. Anyways, Mr. Beautiful on a daily, really not problematic at all. In fact, I actually still really like this chart, but if it wants to explore the downside, 750 is not out of the question at all. Not at all. Looking at the very low term timeframes right here, probably does come back down and test around 920-ish region short term. I'd also be looking for a bounce off of 920 short term as well. Looking at momentum oscillators, they're all kind of pointed southwards right now. 4 hour, 3 hour. Yeah, 3 hour wants to test a little bit of downside here too. Somewhere into the low 900s. Buy hourly, same shit. Hourly, same shit, yeah. But I don't really have a problem with this chart. Overall, the chart is fine. Overall, the chart is good. But I do, I would be looking for some short-term downside, probably down to like 900 or 920 base, and then a bounce there, and then come back to it after that. This one, like I said, on a daily can very easily come down to like 750. I'd still be looking for a big bounce on medium-term timeframes there, and likely give another try to the upside long-term. I've absolutely no problems with the weekly, last week's closure. This week obviously could be problematic, but with basically 6 days left to go, it's just not relevant right now. And the monthly obviously very, 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 very powerful. I mean, you can see very easily that we just got a backfill on the last all-time high and down, and that's very common. So I don't look at this as anything too problematic just yet. I would even welcome it to come down to like 750-ish region, and that probably does produce some nice trades, but we don't always get what we want now, do we? What about Link versus USD? Is it coming down with the rest of the market? It kind of is. Doing the same thing as what you see on Buteral. Not as strong, though. This one is kind of losing its pole position as one of the best, but still long-term, one of the best charts for sure. And I still favor the upside here just in general, as long as we're riding the 21 on the weekly. So no problems with that. And what about Uni? Uni versus Bitcoin still under pressure. No, this is still bearish. Probably most altcoins still do remain long-term bearish. I think that we're going to see rotations still go on here. If Bitcoin goes sideways, then yeah, altcoins get to benefit a little bit. But until Bitcoin actually reverses and then altcoins go up, until I see both Bitcoin versus US dollar breaking out to new all-time highs in a trending move, plus altcoins versus Satoshis going up, I don't really have any real reason to change that thought around. And I get so much shit for that too. Like, people leave the most egregious and just fucking aggressive and mean-spirited comments whenever I talk shit about altcoins. Understand, I'm not talking shit about you, man, or girl, or whatever the hell you want to be portrayed as. Or listen, you tell me. I don't want to piss you off for that reason. But understand, I'm just talking about a chart. That's all. It's not like your mother or anything like that. It's just a chart. It's an inanimate object. Does not love you back. And this chart certainly does not love you right here. It says go fuck yourself. It's literally giving you a fist in the bunghole every goddamn day, and yet you still love it like a shitcoin that cheats on you daily. And you're like, please cheat on me more, sir. I trust you. I love you, shitcoins. It's like, what the fuck, man? Do you go to bed holding these things at night, or what the fuck? XRP BTC, again, I have nothing nice to say about this chart. Nothing at all. Not even a little bit. It's gonna go down more. I mean, it's already gone for the full retrace basically. So what's another few fucking Satoshis, huh? What about where's my favorite little shitcoin? Where are you? Well, not Litecoin, but we can check out Litecoin too. Struggling on the lows. I don't think that these are reversing just yet, or at least not any sustainable reversal. What about Link? Link has a short-term reversal here. Let's see what a weekly looks like. But I mean, no, not really. Just kidding. Not really. Probably coming back down long term to 32,000 Satoshis. Still want to see that one met. Short term, though, probably does a little bit of pop to the upside. What about, where's my favorite one? Where the fuck is he? Where are you? There you are, you little shitcoin. You ain't escaping me today. It's cracking the whip. Hey, it's analysis time, boy. We're about to analysize these goddamn Cardano car dealers over here. And guess what we got? We got a motherfucking downtrend for 3 motherfucking years long. And oh, baby. Woo! Red dildos for breakfast, red dildos for lunch, red dildos for dinner. Just shove those red dildos down my motherfucking throat, make a goddamn popsicle out of me with putting it in my mouth hole, out my bung hole, and now you can shish kebab my Angus all the way to fucking Texas. Welcome to Krown's Crypto Cave. Short term, yeah, a little bit of upside here, yes. Long term, there's nothing at all whatsoever good to say about this chart, like not even a little bit. But short term, medium term, yeah, if it wants to pop back up to 750 or 800 Satoshis, that's completely fine. But that doesn't change years long. I mean, shit, man, even the 4 hour looks like it wants to probably pop back down. Do we have bearish divergence here? No, we don't. We don't. There's no bearish divergence. What do? Yeah, if it wants to pop up to like 770 or 800 Satoshis, that would be that's completely fine. It doesn't really change anything though. Weekly is absolute dog shit actually. It's like absolute dog shit in fact. Cool. All right. Let's look at my shit perps. Yeah. Well, that's versus US dollar, so of course they're going to be doing well. Mid perps, hey, not bad. Alt perps, not bad as well. Anyways, go check out traditional markets to see if they agree with what Bitcoin's doing, if we have any sort of biases to be included in here. I do still remain long-term bullish on this, of course. However, given that last move to the downside, sorry, let's go to this chart over here. It's one that's currently trading. Given that last move to the downside, where were we? Yes, it was right here, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Okay, given this last move to the downside, I mean, basically just tested a 10 simple. I mean, not even, and rallies off it. Short term, it probably does have some downside here, though. Short term probably does. Momentum also is turning down. Historical volatility percentile looking to turn up. Yeah, this could very easily explore a little bit of downside here. I wouldn't be surprised if it does jab down to like 12,350, 12,300 region and plays out a little bit of a bounce from there. Very short-term time frames, like a 4 hour. Yeah, I certainly would not mind to move down to like 12,350 to 12,400 or 12,450. What is this level right here? Yeah, 12,450 actually on the 4 hour. 4 hour Jewel did give a sell signal a little bit before the sell off yesterday. That would be 1,700, and 1,700 was. Where? Actually, no. It was right. It was right on it. Yeah, actually, not that great of a signal right there, to be fair. Let's see. What about the hourly? Hourly, a little bit of short-term downside. Yes. What about SPY? What does SPY say? Same chart. Yeah, basically same chart here. What do we see on the daily? Yeah, I'd probably be looking for a little bit of short-term downside on these ones. But keep in mind, we got higher lows. What about on a weekly? I still like the weekly chart. I still like the weekly chart more immediately too. So maybe it does grind out the lows once again, but I don't hate this chart. Still fine. Maybe a little bit of short-term downside though. Let's see. What about MicroStrategy? What are you doing? Where are you? First off, there you are, 425. Still making new highs. Not bad. Let's see, what does the daily look like? Yeah, a little bit of a reversal on the daily. Short-term reversal probably does come back down and fill the gap, but I would be looking for a bounce around 393, 394 region. Long-term, the breakout looks to be real with the volume signature, and of course getting above the last major pivot at about 360 a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I still favor long-term. So, short-term downsides are probably an opportunity here. Then again, if it does come back down below 350, then big problems, but has a little bit of buffer between there and right now. Okay, cool. So this video is already way too long, and let's start to wrap this bitch up. Let's go back on to Bitcoin over here, and let's see. Actually, let's use our short-term time frame chart right here, and we'll use that. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay, cool. Sweet one. And let's go over here for this analysis right here. All right, sweet one as well. And let's get into it. All right, let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin on the 2-day closing above the topside shoulder band once again yesterday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that does set into the bias, at least for myself, that I am still looking for at the very least a sideways price action right here and slightly biased to the upside overall. But it really is going to come down to these next two 2-day total closures for spot price action. If they come within this vicinity without breaking below the prior 2-day low, I look at that as more or less a sideways consolidation, and still trend remains to the upside, as we still do have higher highs and higher lows, and I favor that amongst everything else for obvious trend. Just the most simple thing, but it typically gets things right more often than not, funnily enough. Everyone wants to do the backwards somersault 360 flip, but just trading the trend here, you would be massively successful all the way since basically like $7,000. So there it is. Anyways, with that said, there are a couple ways to confirm a pretty nasty reversal here if Bitcoin does want. First way and easiest way would be to look for a wick below yesterday's low, or sorry, not yesterday's low, or actually it is yesterday's low, but the last 2-day low, which is 27,734 on Stamp, and check your exchange, it will differ. And more importantly, that is a little bit more of an aggressive way of doing it. I do think that there is a more conservative way of doing it as well, and that require going down the low term timeframes over here. And I would be looking at the 29,500-ish region as that major area, which is right here. If Bitcoin starts to close medium term timeframes, maybe even a 4-hour below, but definitely medium term timeframes like a 12-hour, then yes, I would look for Bitcoin to play out a bit more of a reversal. And if that condition is met, I would look for price action back down to about $23,500 to $24,000, wherever the 20 simple on the 2-day comes in around, which is currently low $23,000 and rising over time, obviously. So with that in mind, I would be cognizant of that with the proverbial target down here, but that's only if that condition is met. So a wick below yesterday's low, or a potentially 4-hour closure below 29.5, definitely a 12-hour or daily closure below 29.5. With that in mind, let's go back down to the lower term timeframes. And as long as this area does hold right here, I look at this as sideways healthy consolidation. Yes, it does look a little bit nasty. Yes, there are humongous moves within this region, but we're dealing with big numbers once again. And the momentum also does, I think, tell the story right now, as we do see that 4-hour Stokes are coming all the way down and will actually cross back onto the upside with any sort of a next 4-hour closure above 31,000 and some odd change. And that also is going to come alongside maybe not this closure right here, but perhaps the next one, a test of the same trend line that's been holding up the lows out of the last two major consolidation moves in December 9th and also December 29th right here, before these trending moves to the upside right here. And also way the fuck back on over here on this one. Sorry, my chart's a little bit convoluted right there, but I hope that point stands. Also, historical volatility percentile on the 4-hour after redlining is very likely to go into a contraction phase, and the contraction phase within the context of this current price action would be more or less sideways on the medium term timeframes. Medium term timeframe range is fucking massive, though. That, to be fair, so that's that is a clever turn of phrase. But more importantly, this is why I do put the most importance on levels. And with that in mind, the short term range here is obviously between that 29.5 pivot, and then the short term time frame range to the upside is going to be 32,000. Now, breaking back above $32,000 on a 2-hour or 4-hour total closure would imply another $1,500 move back onto that 33.5 level right here. That's where things get interesting once again for a trending move to the upside. If Bitcoin can start to close medium-term timeframes above this region, I probably wouldn't use a 4-hour here, but a 12-hour or above would very likely do it. For the more aggressive traders, 4-hour is probably fine. Of course, it's not financial advisor, non-financial advisor, but a closure above here would very likely imply, at the very least, a retest of $35,000 high and likely new highs on that run with our same targets if that condition is met to the upside, which would be at the 4 spot 236 extension over here between about 38 and 40,000 bucks overall. Now keep in mind, the weekly and the 3 days still govern my personal bias for looking at this as likely a sideways consolidation that gives another try to the upside, at least as long as these conditions are met. And that is because of the weekly, as long as it's closing above the top side shoulder band, I look at that as trend in progress, and it certainly did on Sunday. And more importantly, it's even above it right now. And you can even look at this last wick down as a backfill. If you're in the TA program, you know what that concept is referencing. Moving on to the 3-day, same thing here as well. This one obviously not closing tonight, but tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that will be the next biggest piece of price action information to kind of confirm itself. And that's going to have a chance to do the same thing. Top side shoulder band is 31,300 as of the current moment in time. and I look at this as, not problematic in and of itself just yet. So yes, we could be looking for a reversal here, but I still want to see a couple of conditions met. I do think that this move was rather aggressive, yes, but so was the move to the upside, and the way that you go up is the way that you come down, typically speaking. And with that said, I think that's a good place to leave it off, as I think we got just about everything there. Is there anything else that I want to talk about? No, we have no sales, we got no nothing, but I am going to be on Twitch later, so I want to wish you well, I want to salute you, and until next time.